Jai Baba. None dies and none knows to die. The rare one who knows to die is never born again. Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Thanks to beloved Baba and Jai Baba to all of you. We are reading discourses. The title of our session is Meher Baba on Death. This is session number 4 and we are on page number 315 of Discourses, 7th edition.
Release of memory of past lives. The number of persons who can remember their past lives is very small compared with the vast majority who are so completely bound to the gross sphere of existence that they do not even suspect supersensible realities. The release of such memories is severely conditioned by the limitations of the brain as long as consciousness is entangled with the physical body and its brain processes. When consciousness is emancipated from the limitations imposed by the brain, it can recover and re-establish the memories of past lives which are all stored in the mental body. This involves a degree of detachment and understanding that only the spiritually advanced can have. The memory of past lives can come with full clarity and certainty even to those who are still crossing the inner planes of consciousness but have not yet become spiritually perfect.
In the last session when we read last week, we saw that when a new body comes, along with the new body, the new brain comes. And that new brain limits or inhibits or veils the memory of past lives to seep through into this life, which is very essential. Otherwise, we get all muddled up by getting access to several of our past lives. We also saw that in some abnormal cases, the memory of the past lives may leak into the present life, but that is very rare and it is not very normal. Here Baba says, release of memory of past lives. The number of persons who can remember that past lives is very small compared with the majority, who are so completely bound to the gross sphere of existence that they do not even suspect supersensible realities. That means there are senses which are beyond the normal 5 physical senses. They don't even have any suspicion, they don't suspect that such senses, or what we call, Baba calls supersensible senses, also exist. They are unaware of it, they are absolutely ignorant about it. The release of such memories is severely conditioned by the limitations of the brain as long as consciousness is entangled with the physical body and its brain process. As long as the consciousness is focused on the physical body, on the gross, and as long as brain does its function of not allowing excess of the past memories to seep through or to leak through, this is what is the normal condition. When consciousness is emancipated, that means freed from the limitations imposed by the brain. Brain imposes a certain amount of limitation, but when consciousness is freed, that emancipation is from the limitations imposed by the brain, it can recover and re-establish the memories of past lives which are stored in the mental body. We all know all impressions, all samskaras, all that we have done in so many past lives, they are all stored in the mental body. But only those impressions, only those samskaras, only those memories which are required for this current form, current life, they are released and they are worked upon, and not the whole mountain of memories that are there already stored in the mental body. So what Baba is trying to say here is that when the consciousness is emancipated, freed from the limitations imposed by the brain, it can recover. The consciousness can recover and re-establish the memories of past lives, which are all stored in the mental body. This involves a degree of detachment and understanding that only the spiritually advanced can have. Once you are spiritually advanced, you are in a mental state of detachment. You are not attached. You are not enamored. You are not entangled in all that the memory says. You know that what I am experiencing today is as much an illusion, as much a drama, the divine Leela happening, and whatever that has happened in the past several lifetimes was also an illusion. So when you understand that nothing is real except experiencing Godhood, everything takes a very lighter, we approach all situations in a very lighter manner. We are not entangled, we are not, let's say, sucked in to the aspect of what is happening out there, because we are spiritually advanced. So Baba says that those who are spiritually advanced will look at all these aspects of past memories with a certain degree of detachment and understanding. The memory of past lives can come with full clarity and certainty even to those who are still crossing the inner planes of consciousness but have not yet become spiritually perfect. That means apart from those who are spiritually perfect, and that could mean the perfect ones, it could mean the perfect master, it could mean the Salik, and obviously the avatar. They have the full X-ray, the full chart of everything from day one, what all happened. But apart from they having access to the past memories, Baba says there are times where people who are the aspirant or adept, reherau, wayfarers, on the path, they also sometimes get these memories of past lives, and they get it, and because they are balanced, because they understand, because they detach, it does not affect them adversely. On the contrary, they make very positive and good, fruitful, spiritually acceptable use of such past memories in order to help others who are still in the maze of illusion.
But fifth plane and sixth plane are mental, so they will have access.
Right.
Loss of memory of past lives does not affect progress. The memory of past lives does not come back to a person except in abnormal and rare cases, unless he is sufficiently advanced from the spiritual point of view. This provision, made by the laws of life, secures unhampered spiritual evolution of the individualized soul. At first view, it might seem that the loss of memory of previous lives is a total loss, but this is far from being so. For most purposes, knowledge about past lives is not at all necessary for the guidance of the onward course of spiritual evolution. Spiritual evolution consists in guiding life in the light of the highest values perceived through intuition, and not in allowing it to be determined by the past. In many cases, even the memory of the present life acts as an obstacle for certain adjustments demanded by the spiritual requirements of the changing situations of life. The problem of emancipation may, in a sense, be said to be a problem of securing freedom from the past, which, in the case of those who are bound to the wheel of birth and death, inexorably shapes the present life.
So here the subtitle is Loss of Memory of Past Lives Does Not Affect Progress. The memory of past lives does not come back to a person except in abnormal and rare cases, unless he is sufficiently advanced from the spiritual point of view. I would interpret that as sufficiently balanced, sufficiently detached, sufficiently strong enough not to get entangled in the issues pertaining to past lives. Otherwise, it could really cause chaos. Imagine a person who is not sufficiently spiritually advanced, who doesn't have the sense of balance, a sense of detachment, sense of understanding, that is already dead and gone, that's all over now. So in this life, if I start living two lives, means getting attached and associated and entangled with all those people whom I was associated with in the past life, then obviously the present life is all muddled up. So it doesn't come to everybody, it only comes to those who are spiritually advanced. The provision made by the laws of life, this is the law of life, that you are restricted from accessing, from entering into the memories of the past life. The provision made by the laws of life secures unhampered spiritual evolution of the individualized soul. So the laws of life are so perfectly made that the only purpose of life, the only purpose of death, the only purpose of all that is happening in our life day in and day out, and the only purpose of creation, creating the creation, is only one: to make us go through all these experiences and make us realize that these are all false experiences, illusory experiences, and that should propel us to experience the truth or the reality of oneness of all life. At first view, it might seem that the loss of memory of previous lives is a total loss, but this is far from being so. A scientist, a great scientist, or a great doctor, or a great engineer, or a great whosoever, philosopher, it may appear that, oh, he has really struggled his life for 60, 70, 80 years. He has really come to a certain level. And now he's dead. So that memory is all lost. But Baba says that this particular thought that it is all lost is far from truth. For most purposes, knowledge about past lives is not at all necessary for the guidance of the onward course of spiritual evolution. For the onward course of spiritual evolution, what is required is that we make the best possible use of our intuition, of what situation we are placed in, what are the available sources or gadgets that we can move forward. So that is sufficient, that is enough to make us move forward. There is no need for any input from the past life, is what Baba is saying.
Because after death, we are learning the lessons, which becomes
Correct.
intuition. That
Correct.
is why the past is not required. Bola?
Correct. Okay. What Soumya wants me to say is that after death, we have done it earlier, that we have a very leisurely time of going through our entire life on earth, frame by frame, and learn the lessons therefrom. And these lessons that we have learned comes as like a capsule, like an intuitive treasure.
Ability.
Sorry?
Intuitive ability
that comes with us in this life. So that should be sufficient enough to guide you further for spiritual evolution. That's what Baba is trying to say. And there is no need for any extraneous, although it is my memory, but there is no need for that memory to come in and guide me in this particular life. I'll read the last paragraph. For most purposes, knowledge about past lives is not at all necessary for the guidance of the onward course of spiritual evolution. Spiritual evolution consists in guiding itself.
Guiding life in the...
Guiding life in the light of the highest values perceived through intuition. We just use the word intuition. So in other words, we are left on our own. I don't know, just the thought that comes to me. You know that when you learn swimming, you tie what is known as a float or something. And you cannot be using the float all through, just a casual thought that came. So a time comes when you remove the float. When the float is removed, you don't want to jump into the water. When you don't want to jump into the water, you are pushed into the water. And the moment you are pushed, you start swimming and you realize all of a sudden, oh, I know swimming. I can stay afloat. Something like that, that all these, what should I say, supports that we have in life after death, where we have used those supports, we have used the lessons of what we have done and what we have not done, and we have brought those aspects of intuition in our own life. Baba says that itself is sufficient enough to guide you and lead you further, provided we are sensible enough to take, take lessons from there and delve deep into our own being and try to find out what my intuitive self is trying to convey to me, what is the guidance that I am getting from my intuition. I'll read this again. Spiritual evolution consists in guiding life in the light of the highest values perceived through intuition and not in allowing it to be determined by the past, not to allow my further journey to be determined by the past. We always keep saying that past is very good. We have to learn the lessons from the past, but let it not affect us negatively. Whatever that may have happened in the past is already in the past. It has to be dumped. It has to be just sliced out of our life. Just take in the lessons and then move forward. In many cases, even the memory of the present life acts as an obstacle for certain adjustments demanded by the spiritual requirements of the changing situations of life. So many times, we are stuck to the past. If something that has happened in the past, it's over. But we allow that past situation to control our present responses to life's situations. As a result of which, that past is actually hindering us. Let it be anything. Let it be some experience, somebody behaved badly with us 20 years back. He was a so-and-so. And now when that so-and-so comes in our life again after 20 years, he may have changed drastically, dramatically. He may have been a very beautiful person now. But it does not allow us to react or to respond to that person's being in the present, because we are still carrying. I'll repeat. Many a times in the present life also, certain situations which have occurred in the past becomes a restriction, becomes a badha, becomes a inhibiting factor, becomes a very profound, powerful aspect of our taking decision in the present. Even in the present life, Baba is saying. I'll repeat this, and it is a very, I would say, very important sentence, that we allow ourselves to be affected by past situations rather than leaving the past in the past and only taking the lessons from the past and viewing and responding to each situation in life as if it is the present moment situation. I don't know whether I'm able to convey. What I'm trying to say is each moment is a different moment. And no doubt we are guided by the past. We get the lessons from the past, but we should not be having any kind of boundary or restriction because of something that has happened in the past. I'll repeat this. In many cases, even the memory of in many cases, even the memory of present life, something that happened when I was small, somebody misbehaved, somebody ill-treated me, somebody insulted me, somebody, whatever. I'm only talking the negative part, it can be positive also. But here, when Baba talks about obstacle, I would assume that he is taking into account the negative aspect. So, in many cases, even the memory of the past life, I'm sorry, in the present life
acts as
sorry. In many cases, even the memory of the present life acts as an obstacle for certain adjustments. We cannot adjust to the changing situation of the life because that past is always coming right in our face and not allowing us to adjust to the present time situations. As an obstacle for certain adjustments demanded by the spiritual requirements of the changing situations of life. I hope I've conveyed myself clearly because it's a very important sentence that we understand that past is past and gone. It's not going to come back. Unless you allow it to come back and disturb you and perturb you and torture you. Otherwise it's gone. It's only in the memory. Learn the lessons of the past and move on and adjust yourself according to the present scenario. The problem of emancipation may, in a sense, be said to be a problem of securing freedom from the past. Very beautiful sentence. What is the meaning of emancipation? What is the meaning of freedom? That you become free of all of your past, because the past is past, the past is gone. It has no substance in the present moment, which in the case of those who are bound to the wheel of birth and death, inexorably means relentlessly, unendingly, inevitably, without fail, inexorably shapes the present life. So if we want to really feel free and emancipated, we must take, some people say, take life one time or one day at a time. But why life? Take every moment as a fresh moment, as a new moment. No doubt it has come from the past also, but do not be attached to the past. Do not be negatively affected by the past. If the past has something good, something very noble to offer, by all means take it, but not the negative aspect of the past. Let the past remain in the past.
Shielding from complications. Life would be infinitely more complicated if one who is not spiritually advanced were burdened by the conscious memory of numberless past lives. He would be dazed and unsettled by the diversity of settings in which persons would appear to him in the light of his memory. He is not called upon to face such confusion, however, because he is shielded from the resurrection of the memory of past lives. Things and persons come to him in a limited and definite context and setting, with the result that he finds it easy to determine his actions and responses in the light of what he knows from the past, from the present life. This does not mean that his actions and responses are entirely determined by what he knows from his present life.
By what he knows.
By what he knows from his present life. All that has happened in past lives also has its own unconscious but effective share in
Start from all.
All that has happened in past lives also has its own unconscious but effective share in determining his actions and responses. In spite of the actual influence of past lives, the fact remains that since he is shielded from the resurrection of conscious memory, his consciousness is not subject to the confusion that would result if the conscious memory of past lives were among the data he had to consider for the purpose of determining his actions and responses.
All right. Beautiful. The subtitle, Shielding from Complications. The subtitle itself gives the synopsis of what Baba is trying to say, that in his infinite wisdom, Baba has framed such laws of life that we are shielded, we are protected from lots of complications and confusions which could arise if the past memory were to be, openly shared in the present life. Life would be infinitely more complicated if one who is not spiritually advanced were burdened by the conscious memory of numberless past lives. Just imagine for a moment, I am leading my present life, all of a sudden, a flashback of past life, of somebody sitting just across here and listening to the discourses. And I remember in the past life, that person has harassed me so much. He has troubled me so much. All of a sudden, I would like to react in a manner which is definitely not a very positive manner. Or vice versa. All of a sudden I see some lady sitting there and oh, you were my wife in my last birth. What will I do? I now have to share myself between two wives. It's like that. So there could be so many complexities and confusions, which is not there because we are shielded mercifully from past lives' memories percolating or seeping or leaking into the present life situation. He would be dazed and unsettled by the diversity of settings in which persons would appear to him in the light of his memory. Not just one life. Here we are in Maharashtra, India. In my past life, I was in somewhere else, America, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland. All that bhelpuri, hodgepodge would come all of a sudden, and it would really, we feel dazed. We feel absolutely, we don't know how to handle the situation, because we start giving importance to those aspects of life as if those were true, and this is not true. Whereas the fact of the matter is that all those lives were equally untrue or illusory as this life. So that will only come through to some advanced souls who have experienced that all this is just a passing show, just a drama, just a leela. We are supposed to play our part for a short period of time and then change our roles, keep on changing the roles. This role is not more important than that role, and vice versa.
But this life is relevant.
Yeah.
That is true.
I'm saying not important in the sense that I am not giving, very relevant. Yeah, I agree, very relevant. But not that this is true and that is false, or that was true and this is false. Everything is an illusion. So, he is not called upon to face such confusion, however, because he is shielded from the resurrection. Resurrection would mean revival, it could mean resurgence, it could mean bringing back to life those memories. From the resurrection of the memories of past lives. Things and persons come to him in a limited and definite context and setting. This is the setting. In this life, let us say I am destined to live for 80 years, limited. It is extremely limited in terms of several thousands and lakhs of my life that I have gone through. So things and persons come to him in a limited and definite context and settings. And that is why Baba is saying, do not be attached with these things, do not be attached to things, do not be attached to people, because it is just a temporary setting. It's a temporary setting that, like a drama, I think last time, some time back we said, in a drama you are supposed to play a role of a king, so you are there on the stage. for say half an hour, then you go back, and then you change over and become a beggar. So don't be stuck up on any particular role. These are all role playing that we are doing in life, and it is only for a temporary period. Limited, definite context and setting, with the result that he finds it easy to determine his actions and responses in the light of what he knows from the present life. Because they are definite, because they are limited, because the setting is very set, only this much. The drama is only for say 1 hour. So he knows exactly how he is supposed to play his role, because his focus is only on the present life. This does not mean that his actions and responses are entirely word is
Italics.
in italics, determined by what he knows from his present life. We all know that there is a backlog of samskaras or impressions which we have brought to be utilized, spent, experienced in this particular life. So they are there. They are guiding us. They are tending us to do a certain thing. They are in fact pushing us to go in a certain direction. So what Baba is trying to say, this does not mean that his actions and responses are entirely determined by what he knows from his present life. There is a backlog also. All that has happened in the past lives also has its own unconscious but effective share in determining his actions and responses. They are there, but they are unconscious. They are not prakat. They are latent. They are not manifest. They will very subtly, very unconsciously, without our knowing, they will guide our pathway. They will make us move in a certain direction. That's what Baba is trying to convey. In spite of the actual influence of past lives, which is there we know now, the fact remains that since he is shielded from the resurrection of conscious memory, there is no conscious memory. All this is happening, we say parde ke piche, in the background. What in drama we call it what? Green room or whatever. All that is happening very subtly, very unconsciously, without our being aware that we are being very subtly guided by our past impressions. The fact remains that since he is shielded from the resurrection of conscious memory, his consciousness is not subject to the confusion that would result if the conscious memory of past lives were among the data. Now the data is only this much. Oh, I know what I know in the present life. But if they were to be also included in the data, he had to consider for the purpose of determining his actions and responses. It would have been so confusing. Now the data available to me is only of the present life. But if so much of data would be available to me, how am I supposed to respond in this life would be far more confusing.
Conditions for release of memory. The resurrection of the memory of past lives can be faced without confusion or loss of balance only when the person has become desireless and has lost all feeling of mine and thine. Those whom he once looked upon as belonging to him might be seen in the present life belonging to someone else. And if he were to continue his attachments and supposed claims, he would create untold complications, misery, and confusion for himself and others. Possessiveness of all types has to be purged from the mind if the aspirant is to be spiritually prepared to withstand the disturbing influence of memories from past lives.
So well said. Possessiveness of all kinds has to be purged, has to be purified, has to be cleaned and cleared. Today I am possessing a certain house, or rather, in my past life I possessed something. If I get a memory of past life, I will fight with that. This belongs to me. See, these are the papers, this is this, this is that. So in other words, it would be a very, very complex situation if past lives' memories were to come. So here Baba says, the resurrection of memory of past lives can be faced without confusion or loss of balance only when the person has become desireless and has lost all feeling of mine and thine. So again here what Baba is emphasizing is the importance of desirelessness. As long as the desire is there, the suffering is there. As long as the mine and thine is there, the suffering, the fighting, the quarreling, everything would be there. Once we realize, once we are detached, once we are of a certain spiritual stature where we realize that what belongs to me today will belong to somebody else 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line. Somebody. Nothing belongs to me. I am simply having that name that so and so is, I am the property holder of this, or I am this, whatever that may be. So when the sense of mine and thine is totally done away with, when there is no desire at all, we become desirelessness, then to such a person, when the memory comes, he remains unaffected. He remains detached. Those whom he once looked upon as belonging to him might be seen in the present life belonging to someone else. Like I just gave the example, I all of a sudden get a flash of past life and I see that my wife is sitting over there with her husband. Now she has remarried after I went away. So I will feel a sense of belonging. How can you do that? She is my wife. Or whatever. It could be life, it could be property, it could be things, it could be so many other things. So Baba says, those whom he once looked upon as belonging to him might be seen in the present life belonging to someone else. And if he were to continue his attachments and supposed claims, nobody ever has any claim on anybody or anything, frankly and honestly. But this is a supposed claim. This is my claim. How can you touch? How can you do this? That way. And if he were to continue his attachment and supposed claims, he would create untold complications, misery and confusion for himself and for the other. Possessiveness of all types has to be purged. As I said, purge would mean purified, clean, cleared, etc. from the mind. If the aspirant is to be spiritually prepared to withstand the disturbing influence of memories from past lives. So if you really are wanting to have memories of past life, then the precondition is that you should be thoroughly detached. You should be thoroughly out of possessiveness. You should be thoroughly out of mine and thine. There should be such equanimity in our own being that nothing ever belonged to me, nothing ever will belong to anybody else. It is just a passing show. The title changes hand from one to the other to the third, and it goes on. It has been going on since eons, and it will keep on going in eons. As long as you are apparently or supposedly having this life, we should try to make the most of it in the way Baba has been trying to inculcate within us. A life of desirelessness, a life of detachment, a life of love, care, concern, a life of giving rather than, life of, as Baba says, how to love God. There's a document where very beautifully Baba gives so many points where you are more focused on the well-being and the concern of the other. When you do that, you give very little food to your own self-ego, and when you totally starve your ego, that's when the false ego dies. I'm talking the false ego, and the real ego just comes up. So that is the whole game of life.
Spiritual preparation. When an individual is spiritually prepared, he is completely desireless and full of impersonal love. All entanglements of the personal ego have disappeared from his mind. He can look upon his old friends and enemies with the same equanimity. He is also lifted out of his limitations that he is the same to relations and non-relations from his past and present lives. He is free from the idea of any pressing claims and counterclaims on his part against others or of others against himself, because he has realized the deeper truth of the unity of all life and illusoriness of mundane happenings.
This book is so superb that if we were to read it with the heart and put it into practice, internalize it and apply that to our day-to-day living, this is enough for this life to pass over successfully into the realm of truth. I would take it that way. How beautiful Baba says, when an individual is spiritually prepared. So what does that mean? That's what Baba is saying. He is completely desireless. That means one of the aspects which Baba is harping all the time, the difference between need and wants. Wants are desires.